Hello, fabulous second graders. Maud and I are here to share the servant's tale with you. Remember, the servant wasn't really traveling with all the other pilgrims. He was riding away from his master, and his face was covered with soot. That's like if you've been sticking it in the fire. Not like fire, but the smoke from the fire is getting all over your face. And he's going to tell a story about his friend, who worked for an alchemist. And in the Middle Ages, alchemy was a type of chemistry, but they were trying to turn less expensive metals like tin into expensive metals like gold or silver. Again, I've explained they didn't understand that you can't make gold or silver, you just have it. It's an element. And so as much as they worked on this, they never found a way to do it. So keep that in mind as you hear this story. So the story is called Fool's Gold. Pyrite type of mineral. All right. Anyway, the servant starts his tale. The the alchemist I told you about built his laboratory in Cheapside. He heard tell that the local friar, Brother Palm, was so popular with the ladies that they were always giving him money and presents. He never had to pay for a meal or a night's lodging, and little by little, he was becoming rather rich. Scholars, do you remember from the beginning of the year when we learned about monks? They had 3 rules to follow, right? Never get married, be obedient, and be poor. So Brother Palm, he's a monk. He is not following the be poor. He's getting money from people as presents, and he's keeping it. All right. With a trembling hand, the alchemist stitched his humble face and stopped the friar in the street to ask him for a loan. So here's the alchemist talking to the friar, asking him for a loan, asking him for some money. Just 1 crown, he pleaded. I swear I'll return it in 3 days with interest. That means he'll give him a little bit more money back. I've heard that before, said Brother Palm. But because they were in a public place, he was obliged to lend the money. 3 days later, at first light, the alchemist was knocking on his door. I've brought back your crown, meaning your gold coin, and here's another one as interest. Lord bless us, I never would have believed it, cried the friar, startled out of his usual cynicism, meaning being skeptical. An honest man! The alchemist's eyes widened. Of course, holy brother, but I can't even begin to thank you. To lend money to a stranger, oh, it's amazing. I can never repay you. You made it possible for me to finish my experiments. You must come along and see. And taking Brother Palm by the wrist, he hauled him along the streets and upstairs to a small room under the eaves of a miserable boarding house. Please forgive the mess, he said, dusting off a broken stool. I will be buying a mansion before the week is out. The smoky room was filled with enough equipment, contraptions, and chemicals to boil all of London down into soap. There were retorts and tubes, bowls and pipes, cylinders and balances, ladles and kilns, and little heaps of coal, sawdust, and iron fillings amidst the bottles of every color and substance known to man. So here's the Brother Palm and the alchemist in the Alchemist Laboratory. You can see all his bottles and things. My life's work, said the alchemist theatrically, and now, thanks to you, I can turn all matter into silver. Brother Palm's heart beat a little faster, but he was too much of a rogue, that means a troublemaker or sometimes even a liar, to himself to be entirely convinced. Oh, let me show you, let me share it with you, my great good fortune, cried the alchemist excitedly, lighting a fire on the table. He had Brother Palm himself blow on the coals to kindle them. Now, you add the dross, will you, brother? Anything will do. Dross just means leftover junk. Brother Palm breathed in a face full of smoke and began to cough. But he quickly gathered up a handful of wood shavings, another handful of iron filings, and a third of torn paper, and poured them into an earthenware jar balanced over the fire. That means he put them in a clay pot. Now blow, man, blow, urged the alchemist. The fire must be hot. This is the critical stage. This is where I add lacrima Christi, oh, and a drop of Lido de Gisolo, and a soupçon of vermicelli verdi, in the exact proportions according to my secret formula. Every bottle came down off the shelves, and drops and dribbles were added to produce clouds of smoke. The friar puffed until his face was red, and he was sweating from the very sockets of his eyes. "Oh, my dear chap, here, wipe your face on this napkin," said the alchemist kindly. And while Brother Palm was wiping off his face, the alchemist added one more secret ingredient to the jar. An ingot of silver, meaning he puts in a piece of silver. Is he making silver? The fire roared until the flames were barely visible, and the jar grew so incandescent that at the merest tap, a hole opened in the bottom. Out ran pure silver with a small residue of iron. That's because they put silver in the pot, but Brother Palm doesn't know that. The friar stared so long at it that his lids stuck to his eyeballs. "Heaven bless your work, Master Scientist," he whispered reverently. "I never saw anything like it since the day I was born. How is it done?" "Oh, well, the secret is long in finding and precious in the keeping. I wouldn't tell anyone in the world, except for you, Brother Palm. And even then it will cost you 40 pounds. Do you want to see it again? You see, the secret lies in the calcification and the asphyxiation of the sebum while it is being catamorphized at the barometric esquilibrate. The helioprecipitation is extraconvertible." He's speaking nonsense. Did you catch that? Okay. Again, the friar stopped the jar, stoked the fire, and blew till his eyes bulged. And again, the alchemist added drops and trickles of colored water, and then, while Brother Palm wiped his face, slipped a silver ingot, that's like a chunk of silver, into the jar. And again, pure silver flowed from the bottom. Why wouldn't it? 40 pounds, you say? A fair price for a fair gift. Please, teach me. With a flourish, the alchemist produced a notebook. Everything you need to know is written in this book. The ingredients, the exact proportions, the storage temperatures. Give me 40 pounds and I can go and buy some more chemicals while you make some silver yourself. Please feel free to use all the wood here. I can buy more. I won't be long. If you have any problems, I'll just help you when I get back. Is he coming back? Oh, you're too kind. You're too kind. Brother Palm rummaged under his habit for his fat money belt and the 40 pounds. He paid small attention to the alchemist when he counted the money, picked up the ingots and one or two other things from the room, and went downstairs. Palm was too intent on making silver, a perpetual, that means unending, waterfall of silver, now that he had the formula. With a trembling hand, Palm added the liquids in the measures described, carefully keeping his place in the notebook. He stoked and blew and poured and sealed and heated and tapped and holed and watched the earthenware jar with its cargo of sawdust and iron. A blob of iron plopped out on the table. Brother Palm began again. Here he is working. 6 hours later, he was sitting at the top of the stairs, tear-splattered and sooty, waiting for the alchemist to come back and tell him what he was doing wrong. He waited and waited and waited. Finally, the street door banged and footsteps plodded up the stairs. "What do you want?" a fierce-faced old woman said. "If you're begging, you'll get nothing from me." Then she saw past him into the room. "What is this? Did you do this? Who did this? What do you know about this rubbish? I am waiting for the alchemist, said Palm with wounded dignity. Who? There's nobody lives here but me. Though by the looks of it, somebody's been making free with my little home. Get off your backside, you great ape, and help me clear out all these bottles. Coal? Lord save us! Who put coal on the table? The friar organized a hunt, but the alchemist was long gone, lost among the townspeople like one bad penny melting into a puddle of lead. The old lady sold all the jars and bottles for 3 shillings and kept herself warm for 2 nights on the leftover coal. At the end of the story, out of the trees burst an explosion of villagers on horseback. There was an alderman, a butcher in his apron, a woman with her skirts tucked into her belt, a vicar, a crusader, and a farmer waving a pitchfork. They hailed us so loudly that we could not, in all faith, ignore them. As they caught up to us, the butcher bawled, "Have you seen 2 riders, a fat old clergyman and a black-faced little mongrel of a boy?" "They seem to have done you some grave offense," said Harry. "When we catch them, I'm going to hang them from the first tree, and then I'm going to cut them up with my cleaver. They promised to make us rich, and they could no more make gold than fly." But before Harry could speak again, the quiet parson unexpectedly spoke up. "I saw 2 riders earlier. I believe they went north, masters. God bring your hunt to a happy conclusion." We watched them go, the sea captain and the magistrate muttering under their breaths about missing a good hanging. Then Peter, that's the servant they were looking for, shook back the hood of the monk's spare cloak and thanked him for the loan of it. The monk, who had not noticed Peter taking it from his bags, yelled loudly, and the widow from Bath went and gave the parson a big hug. Fabulous scholars will hear another tale next time. See you then.